In this tutorial, I want to show you how to view keyframes effectively in AfterFX. Currently, I have a very simple box animation of this rectangle moving from one place to another. Only happens over one second, so it's very quick. Now, I can open up my keyframes by choosing the pick whip on the left and opening up again, and I can see the keyframes that I have here. But I'm going to close all that and show you another way. Now, with that item selected, I'm going to press the keys that the shortcut keys to open up the properties for individual use, such as P for position, S for scale, R for rotation. Now we can also do T for opacity. Why it uses T instead of O, couldn't tell you. O will actually take you all the way to the end of the keyframe, or the end of the timeline, and then I'm going to have to come all the way back. So I'm going to show P again, and now what I'd like to do is I'd also like to show scale, and I want to show it at the same time as I use position. So this is what we do. We hold down the Shift key and press S. So now I can also hold down the Shift key and press T, and I'll show or R rather, I will show the position, scale, and rotation keyframes. Now, I'm going to close those again. And here's another way of doing it. The U key will show any property that you have that's got a keyframe at all. And so this is a really good thing if we have really complex filters or effects that we've applied and we only have a couple keyframes, then we can show only the keyframes for that. And so I'm going to go ahead and apply an effect to this and make one or two keyframes just to show you how that works. The one I'm going to use is going to be my 3D perspective effect. In order to apply this, I'm going to find Basic 3D and drag it down onto that footage item. Now you'll see that it's applied, and I've got some different things I can do, such as swivel and tilt. So here's my swivel, here's my tilt. So I'm going to go ahead and create some keyframes for this. I'm at 0, I'm at the very beginning, so I'll click on swivel and tilt, and that will create keyframes for those individual items. To see those keyframes, let's press the U key, and you'll see that it shows me Basic 3D, swivel and tilt, and I've got my two new keyframes. Now if I move over to 1 second, I can take these back to 0, and I could click and type back in the number there. So now you can see those two items have animated. And I could go in between maybe, and let's make a keyframe for one of the individual ones and not for the other. So maybe it tilts back this way. That's kind of interesting. It definitely gives you a better look than just that item by itself. Now, if I were going to not use the U key and I wanted to show all this together as the normal way, let's say the typical way, you could click on the arrows and bring down each different one, and if you click on Effects, you'll see Basic 3D, and this will show you the three that it hid: Distance to Image, Specular Highlight, and Preview. These three we did not create keyframes for, so it didn't show. Now, just to show you how crazy it can sometimes get with different keyframes that you could possibly put in, I'm going to go to Simulation and choose the Particle Playground and drag it over. Now the Particle Playground has lots and lots and lots of different options. If I look at the Particle Playground effect in the left, notice what happens when I open up all these different things. Persistence properties, walls, repel, gravity, layer map, particle exploder, layer exploder, grid, cannon. So every single property has the ability to have a keyframe. If I were to show this Particle Playground in my timeline and open up everything, you'd see that it'd be very difficult to keep track of all the keyframes that you've made. So that's why the U key is so useful. This way, you go ahead and hide everything you want, or everything that you don't need, And let's say that we did decide to do a radius for our exploder. And I'm going to explode that particular layer. You'll see the particle playground can be quite slow. It's taking a while, so maybe I'll use a different one. Maybe I'll use shatter. I'm going to delete that by taking it out, drag shatter over to it. Ah, there you can see my shatter effect. That's kind of cool. It's only showing me a preview. If I wanted to show the rendered view, this is what it would look like. And it had an error. So let's take that back to wireframe, and hopefully it won't have the error again. But now I want to do force 1 for position and force 2 for position. And I only want to show those two keyframes. So I'm going to go to U, and here you can see the keyframes for position of the shatter. And that's all I have. And that's quite nice, because then it doesn't show all the different ones, and I can move those keyframes if I need to. There's position 1 and position 2. And there you can see I've created keyframes on my timeline. So working with keyframes when you have a lot of them can be very difficult in AfterFX. So the easiest thing you can do is press that U key, and that will show you just the keyframes that you've created, and it won't show you all the other ones that you possibly could create for complex effects.